Sign it or I walk. That's what she said. Calm. Measured. As if we were deciding between couches at IKEA, not detonating our marriage. And me? I just stood there, clutching a spoonful of yogurt like it was the only thing keeping me tethered to the planet. I glanced down at the table. There it was. A clean, uncreased stack of white legal paper, topped with a pen I'd bought for her last Christmas. Brass body. Custom engraving. She used it to write "Happy Holidays" to her coworkers last year. Now she was using it to end our life. I looked at her. She wasn't crying. Her eyes didn't even flinch. Just that same expression she used when returning packages, polite but done with the conversation. Are you serious? I asked. My voice sounded small, like I'd been punished in front of the class. She didn't answer, just nudged the folder an inch closer. My stomach turned. I tried to remember what I'd done. What specific action led to this? We hadn't fought. Not recently. I made dinner last night. Cleaned the bathroom Saturday. Even bought her that turmeric smoothie she likes. I was trying. Maybe not perfectly, but I was trying. This doesn't make any sense, I whispered. You didn't even talk to me. She finally looked up. I did talk to you. You just weren't listening. I sat down. Not because I agreed. Because my knees were shaking. Is this about that guy from the climbing gym? Because if you think something's going on. She laughed. Laughed. You think I'm doing this over a guy? Oh my God, Stet, just sign it. I stared at the pen. And I swear to you, in that moment, I thought, what if I did? What if I called her bluff? Because it had to be a bluff, right? We'd been fine. Not amazing, but not divorce level. She was just angry. Emotional. Testing me. Like she always did when she felt unseen. So I picked up the pen. And I signed. Every letter of my name felt like I was digging my own grave. But I did it. Slowly. Carefully. When I looked up, she was frozen. What are you doing? She breathed. You told me to sign. That was her voice cracked. It was a joke, Stetson. I wasn't actually. This was to scare you. You're supposed to fight for me. Not do it. I said nothing. Just pushed the folder back toward her. And in that awful silence, she finally broke. She reached for the papers with shaking hands and whispered something I'll never forget for the rest of my life. Wait, I wasn't ready. Too late. I was. She didn't touch the folder. She just stood there, staring at the signature like it was something indecent, a slur carved into a church pew, a stain she couldn't scrub out of our history. I waited for her to say something, anything that would explain what this was really about. But she didn't. Her hands dropped to her sides. Her mouth opened, then shut again like she was rewinding the scene in her head and trying to reshoot it with a different ending. You were never supposed to say yes, she finally muttered. Quiet, shaky. You were supposed to say no. You were supposed to rip it up. You were supposed to fight for me. I scoffed, bitter and small. Oh, I'm sorry. Was that printed in invisible ink on the bottom of the contract? That pushed her back a step. I could see the tears building now, but I wasn't moved. I'd seen those tears before. I used to think they meant regret. Now I wasn't so sure they weren't just part of the performance. Because who pulls a stunt like that if they actually want to stay married? She turned away, wiping at her face. I watched her shoulders shake as she stood there by the sink. The same sink where she once kissed me mid-dishwashing, laughing because I'd smeared soap suds on her cheek. That memory felt like someone else's life now. I wanted to leave the room, slam a door, take the car and drive until my mind stopped spinning. But I didn't. I just sat there, in the same chair I'd been sitting in for breakfast the morning after our honeymoon. And I asked the one question I'd been swallowing for weeks. Is there someone else? The silence that followed wasn't loud. It was deliberate, like she was deciding what version of the truth I was allowed to hear. She turned slowly, face pale, eyes red, and said, "Why would you even ask me that?" I leaned forward, my hands clenching around each other like they might hold me together. Because this whole thing feels rehearsed. Like it's not really about me. Like you already knew how this would go. Like maybe someone told you I wouldn't actually sign. That if you dangled the thread, I'd crawl. Her eyes flickered, just for a second. Then she forced a smile that made my skin crawl. No, there's no one else. This was about us. About how we don't talk anymore. How I feel invisible. Invisible. That word hit me like a slap. I was the invisible one. The man who walked on eggshells so she wouldn't pull away further. The man who slept facing the other side of the bed just to give her space she never said she needed. The man who turned down a promotion because the hours would have cut into our time. Time she spent scrolling TikTok or texting someone she always claimed was just a friend from work. But I didn't say any of that. I just nodded like a coward. I see, I said. And I did. I saw everything all at once. I saw the late nights, the new gym membership, the sudden interest in spin classes at 6 a.m. when she hated cardio, the way she always kept her phone screen face down. I'd seen it. I just didn't want to believe it. And then something happened that changed everything. As I stood to leave, her phone buzzed on the counter. I wasn't going to look. I swear I wasn't. But as I passed, the screen lit up, and I saw a name. Just a name. Darren, flexed biceps, winking face. And beneath it, a preview of the message. So did he fall for it? Faced with tears of joy, I stopped walking. She saw my eyes. And for the first time in this entire mess, she looked afraid. She didn't even try to hide the phone. That's what got me. She didn't reach for it, didn't grab it, and fumble out some desperate explanation. She just stood there, stone still, watching my eyes scan the message like she was observing a science experiment. Like she wanted to see how long it would take before something in me cracked. So did he fall for it? I read aloud. My voice sounded off. Like it wasn't mine anymore. Like someone had pressed record on a tape player that had been collecting dust for years. I looked at her. Really looked. And I swear, for a moment, I didn't recognize the woman in front of me. She finally moved, brushing her hair behind her ear like she was prepping for a Zoom call. It's not what you think. Then explain it, I said, eyes locked on hers. She paused, then let out this short, breathy laugh like she was choosing which version of the truth to sell me. It was a dare, she said. A stupid thing in the group chat. The girls, Marina and Jess, they said I wouldn't actually do it. That I'd chicken out. So, I did it. For the drama. My mouth opened, but no sound came out. I wanted to believe her. God help me. I wanted to believe that this was just some immature, attention-seeking nonsense. I could maybe recover from that. Maybe. But there was something in her tone, almost rehearsed. Like this wasn't the first time she'd had to lie and look convincing. And Darren? I asked. He's part of the girls' chat now? Her smile faltered for half a second. Then she caught herself. He's just a guy from the gym. He jokes around. It's nothing. Seriously. I nodded slowly. The kind of nod people do when they're pretending not to feel their heart disintegrating inside their chest. I walked to the counter and picked up her phone. She didn't stop me. The screen had gone dark, but I tapped it once and the message thread lit up like a floodlight in a dark room. Darren again. Darren, flexed biceps, winking face. You owe me dinner. That was legendary. His face. I bet he's crying RN. Face with tears of joy. LMK if you are free Saturday. You need a real night out. And then, one from her, sent 5 minutes before I came home. He just got in. Watch this. My hands started shaking. I dropped the phone on the table like it was burning through my skin. I was part of a show, I whispered. You turned me into a punchline for some dude with flex emojis in his name. She didn't deny it. Didn't even look guilty. Instead, she crossed her arms and said, You don't get it. You checked out months ago. You buried yourself in work and weird Reddit forums and quiet resentment. I had to do something. Oh, so you staged a fake divorce as therapy? I snapped. No, she said flatly. I staged a fake divorce to see if you still cared. And you proved you didn't. You signed. I blinked. She spun it. She actually spun it into being my fault. You threatened to leave me if I didn't play along with your emotional manipulation, I said, trying not to let my voice shake. You got a bunch of people involved, one of whom clearly thinks you're available, and now you're mad because I took you seriously? I'm mad, she said, stepping forward, because you didn't even flinch. You didn't ask why. You didn't cry. You just signed like it meant nothing. And there it was. The truth behind her tears. She wasn't mourning the marriage. She was mourning her power over me. She thought I'd beg, plead, that I'd crumble so she could feel like she mattered again. Instead, I gave her silence. And silence is what narcissists fear most. I picked up the envelope again, held it between us like a mirror. You handed me a script, I said, voice cold. You just didn't expect me to follow it. She opened her mouth to speak, but the sound of a new text cut through the air. Darren again. Tell him yet? We're still playing sad wife. She lunged for the phone, but I was faster. And when I scrolled up, what I found next wasn't just betrayal. It was the blueprint of everything that had happened over the past 3 months, planned, timed, and executed like a game. And I was the loser. My thumb hovered over the screen for a second, just long enough for her to make a desperate swipe for the phone. But I yanked it back, fast, and stepped away from her like she'd just pulled a knife on me. Don't, I said quietly. Don't you dare. Her eyes were wild now, a mix of panic and entitlement, like she couldn't decide whether to cry or scream or pretend this was still part of some ridiculous joke. I turned the phone toward me and scrolled up, not even sure what I was looking for, but knowing I'd recognize it when I saw it. And then I found it. The group chat was named Project Wake Up Call High Heeled Shoe Nail Polish. A cursed combination of emojis and emotional sabotage. It was her, Marina, Jess, and Darren. Yep, Darren with the biceps and the winks. The man who wasn't supposed to be involved. I clicked into it, and my stomach sank. The messages went back weeks. Maybe longer. It started playful, like some twisted self-help club. Marina had sent the first message. Mals, he doesn't deserve you doing all the emotional labor. Men need fear to appreciate what they have. Jess replied, drop the D-bomb. See if he finally notices you shaved your legs for once. Then Fallon chimed in. You think he'd actually fall for it? He's so numb these days. Darren, who wasn't even pretending to be subtle. Give him papers. Act icy. He'll panic. You'll get your control back. Or your freedom. Either way, win-win face-blowing a kiss. It got worse from there. There were detailed strategies. Scripts. Literal scripts about what to say, how to stage the candlelit dinner, what facial expressions to use. Marina even sent bullet points. Like a job briefing. Wear that black dress, the one you said he always stares at. Look confident but tired. Cry only if he resists. Don't overdo it. Keep control. I wanted to scream, but I kept reading. One message from Fallon, just a few days ago, punched through my chest like a sledgehammer. If he signs, I swear I'll lose it. It'll mean he never actually cared. But if he begs, I might give him one last shot. There it was. The ugly truth in 31 words. She didn't want to leave me. She just wanted to see me squirm. Like a puppet. Like an animal tested in a lab for emotional reactions. I looked up at her. She was crying now, yes, but her hands weren't reaching for me. They were reaching for the phone, like the phone was the victim in this mess. She wasn't crying because she was sorry. She was crying because I wasn't reacting the way she wanted. I held the phone up, my voice shaking. This isn't therapy. This isn't empowerment. This is psychological warfare dressed up in hashtags and wine glasses. You weren't there for me, she sobbed. I had to try something. And this was your solution? I snapped. A humiliation campaign in a group chat full of your plastic best friends and some gym rat who clearly wants to sleep with you. She turned cold. Just like that. The crying stopped like she'd flipped off the faucet. You know what your problem is? She said. You always make everything about being the victim. Maybe that's why this marriage died. No, I said, stepping forward now. This marriage died the moment you needed an audience to fix it. Her mouth tightened. 1,000 retorts lined up behind her lips, but none of them came out. Not this time. I could tell she wasn't used to me talking like this. I wasn't used to me talking like this. But something inside me had snapped, not in a violent way. Not in a scary way. Just in a done kind of way. She opened her mouth again, then hesitated. I never meant to actually file them, she whispered. I was going to burn the papers after. I just wanted to feel something. To feel like you saw me again. I stared at her for a long, still moment. And then I said the one thing she never expected to hear. I see you now. And I did. I saw exactly who she was. And I knew what I had to do. I didn't sleep that night. Not even a little. She tried to talk to me after the messages. Said we could reset. That maybe this whole thing was a necessary explosion. I didn't respond. I just went upstairs, locked the door, and sat on the edge of the bed staring at the dresser drawer where I kept the emergency documents. Passport, car title, old flash drives from college. I didn't know what I was looking for. Maybe an excuse to leave. Maybe proof that I still existed before her. Around 3 a.m., I checked the chat again. Not because I wanted to. Because I couldn't help it. Like picking at a scab that was still bleeding. There were new messages. Marina. So what now? Is he still there? Jess. Don't let him gaslight you. You did what needed to be done. Darren. But he's already packed his little man bag faced with tears of joy. And then, Fallon. My wife. He's not talking to me. I think I actually broke him. Not, I feel awful. Not, I regret it. Just that she broke me. Like it was a bad vase from IKEA that cracked down the middle after being dropped. I powered off the phone and sat in the dark for another hour. No music. No tears. Just silence. The next morning, she acted like it never happened. Made coffee. Asked if I wanted oat milk. Called me babe in that careful, scripted way. Wore the soft sweatshirt I used to love on her. She was trying to reverse it. Reset the narrative. Pretend I'd misunderstood the entire thing. But I wasn't playing anymore. I told her I had errands to run. She kissed me on the cheek like a scene from a movie that didn't match the rest of the plot. I got in the car, pulled out of the driveway, and drove for nearly an hour with no idea where I was going. I ended up in front of a lawyer's office. Not the fancy kind with marble lobbies and smiling receptionists. This was a quiet building tucked between a pharmacy and a hardware store, with a handwritten, "Closed for lunch" sign still hanging crookedly on the door. I waited. I waited because I needed to know what my options were, not for revenge, for freedom. When the lawyer, an older woman named Eleanor with heavy glasses and a stare that could cut steel, finally let me in, I didn't start with the divorce story. I started with the group chat. She listened, barely blinked, didn't interrupt me once. When I was done, she leaned back in her chair, adjusted her glasses, and asked, "Do you want to burn her or leave her?" I didn't answer right away, because honestly, I wasn't sure I could tell the difference anymore. She nodded like she'd seen 100 men like me walk through her office, too tired to scream, too angry to cry. "You want the upper hand?" she said. "Then stop reacting. Start documenting. Stop telling her how you feel. Start showing the courts who she really is." I walked out of that office with a list of steps, a burner email, and a weird sense of peace in my chest that I hadn't felt in months. That night, I didn't confront Fallon. I didn't even mention the chat. I came home, smiled, made dinner like usual, and even asked about her gym class. She lit up like a Christmas tree. Thought she'd won. Thought the performance worked. She didn't notice I wasn't using my main phone anymore. She didn't notice I'd installed a keystroke logger on the shared iPad. She didn't notice I'd pulled half our savings into a separate bank account registered in a name she didn't know. She didn't notice anything, because she wasn't watching me. She was watching the character she'd created, but I wasn't playing him anymore. Fallon was in the kitchen humming again. She always hummed when she wanted to pretend everything was okay. I used to think it was cute. Now it sounded like someone trying to drown out their own guilt with background noise. She was making eggs, mine, the way I liked them, even though she hadn't made me breakfast in months. I didn't say a word, just watched her, silent, sipping the coffee she'd suddenly started brewing for me again, like that could erase the screenshots burned into my memory. She thought the performance was working, thought I was too stunned to act, too spineless to respond. But I was watching now, really watching, and I realized something. Fallon didn't want freedom. She wanted control. Not the loud kind, the quiet kind. Emotional strings. She wanted to choreograph both of our roles and punish me every time I forgot my lines. But now she was the one standing on a stage with no audience. And I had no more lines to read. I spent the next 2 days pretending to be fine. I told her I had a lot of client calls. Locked the office door. Didn't answer texts right away. Said I needed space to process. That phrase made her squirm. She hated uncertainty. Hated the idea that I might become unpredictable. That I might be holding cards she couldn't see. That was the beginning of the shift. I started small. I changed the passwords on the shared cloud account. Quietly transferred money from our joint savings into a separate account I hadn't touched in years, one I'd opened long ago to save for a future house. Funny how I once imagined that house would have her name on the deed. I backed up every file, every photo, every receipt. I bought a burner phone and synced it with a new email, just in case. Set up a few alerts she wouldn't recognize. Installed a second admin profile on the home computer. By the third day, I'd contacted someone I never thought I'd need, a family lawyer. Not just for divorce advice. I needed someone with tactical instincts. Someone who wouldn't tell me to breathe and let it go. Someone who knew how to handle a war waged in whispers. Her name was Kendra, and within 20 minutes on the phone, she'd told me 3 things I'll never forget. 1. Emotional manipulation doesn't always leave bruises, but it leaves evidence. Start collecting it. 2. The court doesn't care about your feelings. It cares about who documented first. 3. If she used divorce as leverage, you now have the legal upper hand. She initiated the tone of separation. Let her choke on it. Those words lit a fuse in me. That night, Fallon asked if I wanted to watch something. "We could do a movie night," she said, already curling up on the couch like nothing had happened. Like the group chat didn't exist. Like Darren and his smug little emojis weren't floating in the air between us every time she picked up her phone. I told her I had a headache. She offered to bring me tea. I told her I just needed rest. But I wasn't resting. I was reading hundreds of chat logs. I found the messages she thought she deleted. Even backups from her laptop, synced to the cloud account I'd locked her out of. I found pictures she took of me from across the room, with captions like, "Still doesn't notice." It's almost funny. And I found voice messages she sent to Marina, mocking the way I'd signed the divorce papers. You should have seen his face. He looked like a puppy that got left at the vet. I almost felt bad. Almost. That was the word that shattered something in me. I could have forgiven a lie. Maybe even a cruel joke. But the way she enjoyed watching me break, that was something else. Something darker. I looked over at her sleeping on the couch. She'd left her phone on the armrest, screen dimmed, her breathing soft and slow. For a second, I wondered if she dreamed about the life we used to have, or if she was dreaming about Darren and what her friends would say next in the chat. And that's when I knew what I had to do. Not scream, not cry, not pack a bag and slam the door like some dramatic martyr. No, that's what she wanted. Chaos she could control. I was going to do the one thing she never expected. Take control back, piece by silent piece, while smiling the entire time. And when the final blow came, it wouldn't be loud. It would be surgical. It came in the form of a voice memo, 42 seconds long, sent to my burner email, the one Fallon didn't know existed. The subject line just said, "I'm sorry. You don't know me, but I know everything." At first, I thought it was spam, a trick, but the voice that played through my cheap earbuds was unmistakable. Shaky, guilty, female. It was Jess, one of Fallon's best friends. Group chat core member. Emojis in every message. The same woman who'd helped script the divorce prank. The same woman who'd joked I was probably crying when Fallon served me the papers. That Jess. Only now, she didn't sound so bold. "I don't know why I'm doing this," she whispered, like she was sitting in a bathroom stall trying not to be overheard. Something about what we did feels wrong. It went too far. Fallon's lost the plot. Darren's still texting her at night, and she's pretending it's harmless. But it's not harmless, is it? You didn't deserve this. I didn't breathe for the entire message. She went on. "I saw what you wrote in the email to the lawyer." She left her laptop open. I wasn't supposed to see it, but I did. And I know Fallon. She won't stop until she's humiliated you into leaving. She wants you to leave so she can tell everyone you gave up. But I saw what she wrote about you in the chat last week, and I can't unsee it. She paused, swallowed hard, then added one last thing. I saved a backup of the entire group chat, including the deleted parts. If you want it, reply to this message. But don't let her know I sent this. Please. I'm done pretending she's the victim. The audio cut off. I sat there frozen, heart pounding so loud I thought I might actually pass out. My first instinct was suspicion. Why now? Why me? What was the angle? But then I remembered something Fallon once told me during a fight, back when fights were still about laundry and tone of voice. She said, "Jess always talks a big game, but she hates conflict. The second things get real, she vanishes." Maybe she wasn't vanishing this time. Maybe she was trying to escape the wreckage before Fallon burned her down too. I didn't reply right away. I couldn't. I had to think. Because now I had something bigger than screenshots. I had a witness. Someone who'd been part of it. Someone who'd flipped. Someone who could unravel the whole narrative Fallon was carefully crafting. I tried to fix us, but he shut me out script I knew she was rehearsing behind closed doors. That night, Fallon came into my office wearing one of my old flannels like she used to when we were still in love. She curled into the corner chair and asked if I wanted to do a reset weekend somewhere. Her voice was too cheerful, too bright, like a teacher reading to a class that had already checked out. I told her I had work. She pouted, then smiled, then kissed the side of my head. I didn't flinch. That's what scared her. My stillness. She didn't know how to read silence. After she went to bed, I opened my burner email and typed exactly 5 words. "Send me everything you have." 10 minutes later, a zip file appeared. It was over 300 pages of messages, photos, voice notes, call logs. And not just from Fallon. From Marina. From Darren. From Fallon's cousin, who apparently had been added to the chat 3 weeks ago. And in the middle of it all, threads of Fallon mocking my therapy sessions, my texts to her, even private things I'd told her in confidence. She'd told them about my insomnia, About how I used to cry when my father's voicemails auto-deleted after he died. They laughed about it, called me emotionally constipated with a side of tears. I closed the file, not because I couldn't take it, because now I knew what kind of storm I was allowed to unleash. I didn't need to shout. I didn't need to beg. I just needed to be careful, deliberate, and patient. Let her think I'm still broken. Let her think I'm waiting for closure. Let her smile while I set fire to the ground beneath her, legally, quietly, and in a way that she'll only feel once it's too late to run. Fallon thought we were healing. That was the most surreal part of it all. As I cooked breakfast one Saturday morning, something I hadn't done since before the divorce joke, she was practically glowing. She joked about us needing a vacation, called it our comeback year, said she deleted the group chat, said she was over the drama. I smiled, told her she was right, told her I'd been thinking about Bali, or maybe Sedona. She kissed my cheek like everything was fine, like the match she struck weeks ago hadn't already burned down everything between us. What she didn't know was that I'd already filed, quietly, with receipts, with Jess's full testimony, with over 300 pages of printed logs. I'd already pre-signed the asset agreements, already pulled our credit records, already hired the forensic accountant who spotted the secret Venmo transactions she thought were clever. It turns out Darren had been more than a joke. There were payments, a hotel bill, 2 round-trip flights. It didn't matter if she was physically cheating or not. The emotional side was enough. In my state, with that evidence, the courts were firmly on my side. And more importantly, so was the narrative. I gave Jess full immunity in exchange for her witness statement. She'd already distanced herself from the others, and when I told her Fallon might try to retaliate, she laughed bitterly and said, she won't, because now she knows someone's watching her too. I didn't go nuclear. I didn't leak anything. I didn't post online, didn't expose the chat, didn't ruin her professionally, even though I could have. Instead, I let her see what it looks like when the person you try to control stops playing the role you gave them. I served her papers on a Monday. She thought it was a prank. That irony almost made me laugh. When she realized it wasn't, she started unraveling. Not dramatically, not at first. She called me 18 times in one night. Sent voice messages crying, whispering, begging, then blaming, then crying again. You were supposed to fight for me, she said one night, voice broken. But I wasn't fighting anymore. I was freeing myself. We finalized the divorce 3 months later. I kept the house, the car, most of the savings. She got a condo downtown and a watered-down version of the life she tried to script. Jess cut ties with her. Marina stayed quiet. Darren, no idea. Probably moved on to the next crisis disguised as a woman with soft eyes and a sharp tongue. As for me, I started sleeping again. Real sleep. Deep, uninterrupted, no nightmares kind of sleep. I went back to therapy, but this time, not because I needed to fix myself for her. I was healing for me, for the version of myself I buried to keep peace in a war I didn't start. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I got an email. From Jess. Just one line. She told people you changed. I told them you finally woke up. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction. It's reconstruction. Rebuilding without them. Thriving without noise. Waking up and realizing you don't have to beg to be chosen anymore. Fallon wanted a reaction. I gave her results.